continue then with our ongoing reports on the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The Russian army continues to close in on the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. Earlier, Russia indicated that it's ready for talks with Ukraine in order to end the military operation. Now, for the latest on the third day of conflict, I'm now joined by Türkmen Terzi, who is a Turkish journalist but based here in Johannesburg. Türkmen, thank you so much for your time. Let's just analyze the current situation and what is taking place with this conflict.
Actually, it was coming. It is another surprise for us, like for instance, for Turkish people. Maybe it is a far away for you, for the world is very surprising, but it's not surprising for us because this area is always tension. Is a Black Sea is a place of tension. So last 200 years war is ongoing. The center of the problem is now tension is Crimea. Is a peninsula. So there is a Sevastopol in this Crimea is a naval base for Russia. Remember, Russia is a northern country and always wants to move to the warm seas. And for Russia to control Black Sea and the Mediterranean and reaching Aegean Sea and then whole world is the Crimea is so important. That's why Russia is annexed. Took over, invaded Crimea in 2014, and tension starts from there. And I was not expecting Russia to start full war, because actually it was not full war. It was just, as Putin said, it was a special military operation, because Russia wants to destroy the infrastructure of the Ukraine. Actually, they did it. They destroyed the infrastructure. They targeted military bases, but it turned into full. It seems, and Russia is now targeting civilians. Actually, my reading is that is the West and America and Europe is try to counterbalance Russia in Ukraine. It means Ukraine is now become a victim of this conflict, as I told you, between West and Russia, because both West and Russia, they already crossed their red lines. For instance, the Russia first time had a naval base in Syria, so that is unacceptable for the West. The West is never going to tolerate that air base in Syria. And then Libya, the West will never ever tolerate that naval base in the Libya. The Russia's other naval base in northern naval base and the Caspian Sea and the Baltic Sea, they have naval base and they have fleets. And in Caspian Sea, they have a flotile. But that Sevastopol naval base is Russia's the biggest naval base. They made an agreement actually in 1994. They already made an agreement with Russia and Ukraine. They signed a lease, like Russia rented that Crimea, that naval base. But that time also, the Russia wanted the pro-Russian leader in the Ukraine. But in 2014, revolution of dignity, then Poroshenko came, and then Zelensky came. So Zelensky actually is very surprising. Was a comedian and suddenly become a leader of the country. This is very surprising, and actually he's very aggressive because he he trusted the NATO a lot. And then Europe a lot, and Turkey, Erdogan start selling him very advanced combat drones. So they downed in Donbas region. They downed they targeted Russian military. So Putin is openly warned Ukraine and Turkey, because another historical fact is Moscow is very unprotected, like is not surrounded by any mountains or so and so. So Moscow is always wants to protect. Russians are very aggressive when they see the threats. Even they have a army base in all the way far away from in the Kyrgyzstan. So they feel very unprotected, and now is especially after the Kosovo got their independence in the Europe. It means America is moving to Europe. America now increasing their soldiers from 180,000 to 220,000 something, and Ukraine army was only 5,000. Just 5-6 years ago. Now is almost 200 and 250,000. So is a huge, and Russia is support. NATO is supporting now is Ukraine. So the war is getting out of control. Actually,
I don't even think Zelensky himself expected it to get out of control like this.
Yes, he was. He was so comfortable, and he trusted NATO and Europe. Actually, the problem is Europe is very divided. Remember, three power in Europe is one is the British, one is the France, and Turkey also the second biggest NATO in the biggest army in the NATO, Turkey. So, but these countries are very divided between us. So, France and Turkey both are NATO members, but competing in Eastern Mediterranean over the natural gas. Even Turkey is targeted France Navy. So France is left stop exercise, joining NATO exercise. There is a tension in the NATO countries, and Turkey is a NATO country, but build a very strong relation with the Putin. And then America's focus was China, so Europe is among themselves is very divided, and they look very weak. So that motivated Putin. History is very important in that part of the world, not in South Africa. So in 1850s, there's a Crimea War. So the British and the France and Turkey, the Ottoman Empire at that time, they targeted Russia. It was a big war, and Tolstoy wrote novels about that. So this war is always is going on in that region, and now is Russia was controlling very small part of the Ukraine, the Black Sea. But now is half of the Black Sea is now controlled by is Russia, and Russia is now fully controlling Azov. There's the sea in the the surround in the Ukraine. Russia is controlling the sea also. Russia is a Crimea also very important for Russia for their tourists. Is a very important holiday destination. And then another important thing is that there is a Montreux agreement. Turkey is controlling the Bosphorus, the channel. Only way Russia can move to the Mediterranean. This agreement is signed by 1936. So warship only can stay 21 days in the Black Sea. Turkey says, okay, move this Black Sea after 21 days. So America and the British or the European Union cannot keep their warships in the Black Sea. So this agreement actually gives an advanced situation to Russia. That is another important things.
Definitely does seem like Vladimir Putin wants to control quite a lot. What do you think we could possibly expect next? I mean, the main issue for Russia was to, like you said at the beginning, to actually destroy the infrastructure within Ukraine. But now we are seeing civilians being targeted. What could we possibly expect next here?
So like Russian population is 145 million and Ukraine population is 44 million. It means like, from air, you cannot win the war through the aircraft on air attacks. You need to enter with your ground forces. So Russia has to move 2/3 of their ground forces to Ukraine. It will be a not easy war. And Ukraine also, they are powerful, they are good in fighting. So actually Ukrainians and Russians are almost same, like as Putin says, they are the same nation. They don't recognize Ukraine as a different nation, so they speak almost same. They're the same ethnic groups. So they are most powerful, and now is the current government, they are very patriotic people fight against Russia. So as I told you at the beginning, the West and America is trying to stop Russia in Ukraine. That is very bad. I don't think so this war will move out of Ukraine, because already Russia is conquered, invaded some part of Georgia in 2008. And then Moldova, they have power now. They are in Belarus. They control Ukraine. They don't want Ukraine to join NATO. And then definitely NATO will never welcome Ukraine. Never. Europe will never welcome. They say Ukraine is the middle of the Europe. It's not. So Europe and America will never ever welcome Ukraine to NATO. But what they are going to do, they are going to stop, try to stop harm Russian forces in Ukraine. End of day is Ukrainian civilians are going to face a problem. And we as a Turkish, we have been fighting with Russia. We had 12 series of fight between 16th century and the 20th century. So all Western countries provoke actually Turkey against Russia because they want to stop Russia in Turkey, now in Ukraine. So this war is very, how to say, is normal, like we are facing always in that region. And then Russia is one of the last country you should provoke. So like actually Russia, as I told you, was not planning to attack. Russia is now, Russian Empire, Putin also knows, cannot re-establish Russian Empire. But what Russia is trying to do, last time it happened in Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is a Turkic country. Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, all they are Turkic country. We have ethnic common history with them. So they only wanted their own pro-Russian government in these countries because they cannot afford full, like just you know, conquering Kazakhstan and controlling. They cannot. Already in Kazakhstan, eastern Kazakhstan, Russia is already controlling. In Donbas region, eastern Ukraine, Russia is already controlling since, 2014. So Russia, I didn't also understand, like it was a shocking. Russia was actually planning to attack Kyiv, the last, they were not planning, but as I told you, America is coming to Europe. That is the things, and America will get benefit of that war, and America is not going to introduce a strict economic sanction towards Russia because they are marketizing Russia's oil and gas. America have an interest, major American companies, not the government, not the American government, the companies. So this is the things, but in the next Russia might lost their power in Mediterranean because they are going to keep Russia, Europe going to keep Russia busy in Black Sea.
Türkmen Terzi, Turkish journalist in Johannesburg. Thank you so much for unpacking this Russian conflict for us. Quite a lot coming out of that. And as you heard there, the issue of Russia wanting to take over, really, what is currently taking place is quite scary. The main issue was for them to attack infrastructure. And now there's an attack on civilians. We'll be keeping a close eye here at Newzroom Afrika for you on that story.